Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav tivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Praise to you, Lord of God, rule the universe, who's made us holy with your commandments and commanded us to busy ourselves with the words of Torah. We're going to start with a recap of where we've been in chapter 4. I do this each time because I find that sometimes it's helpful to make connections with other texts previously in the chapter and to think about why things are where they are. And it can be good to refresh our memories. So we start with Ben Zoma, who said, who is wise, one who learns from everyone, who is mighty, one who subdues their evil inclination, who is rich, one who is happy with what they have, and who is honored, one who honors other people. Then we get his friend Ben Azai, who said that whether you think this is a big deal or a small deal, you should do it anyway, because doing the right thing leads to doing the right thing, and doing the wrong thing leads to doing the wrong thing. Then we get another saying from Ben Azai that everybody has their moment, everything has their place, so be kind to everybody because you don't know when somebody's moment is going to happen, and it's the right thing to do. Rabbi Levitas from Yavne said, you're not getting out of life alive, so don't be so full of yourself. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka said that even if you think you're doing something in secret, you should still be doing the right thing because it might come out anyway. And that was before they had cell phones that could videotape everything. Rabbi Ishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan, said that if you learn in order to teach, then you have the chance to learn and teach. If you learn in order to do, you have the chance to learn and teach and do. Rabbi Tzadok said that Torah shouldn't be a means to making yourself seem important. That might come to you, but don't make that your goal. Rabbi Yossi said, if you honor the Torah, you are honored by others. If you dishonor the Torah, you are dishonored by others. Presumably the others don't like that you dishonor the Torah. Rabbi Ishmael, the son of Rabbi Yossi, said that if you refrain from judgment, whether that is judging others or being in a position as an official judge or judging others interpersonally, then you don't have to worry about enmity, robbery, and false swearing. But if you treat the judicial process lightly, whether that is as an official judge or as someone who is being judged, then you are foolish, wicked, and arrogant. Same guy said that you should collaborate with others when you're coming to decisions, and you shouldn't impose your views on others. And that brings us to our text today. Abba, would you read this text, please, from Rabbi Jonathan? In.
Feels the obligation to study the Torah.
All right. Give him another chance another time. Carol Koenig, can you read this text, please?
Okay. Rabbi Jonathan said, whoever fulfills the obligation to study the Torah from a state of poverty, their end will be to fulfill it. Example, the obligation to study from a state of wealth. And whoever neglects the obligation to study the Torah from a state of wealth, their end will be to neglect it, the obligation to study, from a state of poverty. Biography. Rabbi Jonathan does not come up anywhere else in the Mishnah. However, in Avot de Rabbi Natan, a parallel version of Pirkei Avot, this saying is said by Rabbi Natan ben Yosef, and this pegs him as Jonathan, the son of Joseph, a student of Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha, who later learned from Rabbi Akiva as well. This puts him as active from 135 to 170 CE. He comes up frequently in the Mechilta rabbinic exposition on Exodus and the Sifrei rabbinic exposition on Numbers and Deuteronomy. How are these sayings relevant to our life today?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oops. All right, there we go.
I think what it's saying, and I'll take a little more expansive view, that if you learn and try to grow, and their, I guess, concentration or attention was to the Torah, but given the explosion of knowledge and all the things that we have available, I would look at it more widely. But if you learn and try to grow and develop, you're going to be better off. And again, I would look at wealth more broadly than just money. And if you don't try to grow, your life is going to be worse off, and it will be poorer. And again, not necessarily just money-wise. And everybody's so quiet, I guess
because we don't understand it, Al. That's why. It's complicated.
I mean, I'm reading it like 3 or 4 times, Norma. Yeah, and I think Alan pretty much hit it really well, from what I can understand on it.
If you consider wealth not necessarily metallic with money or objects, but rather wealth of understanding or knowledge or wisdom, then think of it that way. Not necessarily material wealth. That's what I'm trying to say.
So how then will we explain the state of poverty rather than, from a monetary point of view?
Well, if you're poor in knowledge, poor in your feelings, poor in how you relate to your fellow man.
Okay.
Your morals.
You're poor in that.
Right. And you could be a very rich person and be, I won't name any particular people in the current events over this last years, but you can have a wealth, material wealth, and be poor in your as a person. It sounds like my morning alarm.
Hi, Mrs. Berlin. It's Maria, one of the nurses from Iowa.
On the shore.
One way that may help this become more applicable is to replace poverty and wealth with things not going well for you and things going well for you. And if we do make that substitution, then how does this saying become relevant to our lives today?
Right. Well, you have a wealth of knowledge. You're not poor in knowledge. It's Well, my example is I realized if I wanted to improve my economic situation, I needed to have a greater wealth of knowledge in order to survive.
Hmm.
And so today I have, in some areas, certain a better wealth or better a broader knowledge of certain things that have helped me survive and improve my economic situation, at least modestly, so I can sit here with you folks today.
David, so are you suggesting like something like in the verse, like an unlucky person who studies the Torah gains luck? Not necessarily that, and then a lucky person who ignores the Torah, has bad karma, or I guess.
Mhm. Less luck and more like things are going well in their life.
Okay.
Like they're in a situation where, yeah, things are pretty good.
Okay.
Versus poverty being like, things are not so good.
Okay.
But as you could also have a better understanding do I want to use the word like better understanding the relations and how you should interact with your fellow man by studying Torah, because there's many lessons and instructions about how we were supposed to relate to each other. And understanding that, and how then you can communicate and feel more, shall I say, whole, more integrated with your fellow man, understanding them. You have a mutual understanding. Being a better person, and that makes you feel more comfortable with yourself and your relations with other folks.
Yeah. And I do feel like this verse does at least go with the inverse, which some Pirkei Avot verses do not do the inverse, and some of them do. So this one is like, if you do the Torah, good things come from that. If you ignore the Torah, bad things come from that. Which is kind of nice. It completes the whole circle of studying the Torah.
If we take it more in something like the literal sense, just because we'd like to understand what is being driven at here, do we have a Jewish version of the prosperity gospel? You follow what the good book says, and wealth will pour in for you. This a little more on the, depending on what you mean by fulfilling the Torah. I find that, well, I mean, it's contrary to experience of fact for many people, of course, but I also find it disturbing as a moral injunction that everything will come out right for you. Although there are certainly rabbis who take that approach, if you go to the right rabbi, anyhow. So I'm just asking if there is a kind of complacency about that, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding it.
I don't know if it's like more of like the Christian viewpoint of like a prosperity gospel type thing, but I do think that going back from the rest of chapter 4 that David, nicely summarized, if you're chasing the Torah for the Torah's sake, good will become of that. If you're ignoring the Torah, then, you're not going to gain the goodness that you would get from chasing that Torah, I think. But I think that if we go up earlier in chapter 4, it's important that earlier rabbis were saying, don't read the Torah for that benefit. You read the Torah for the Torah's sake, and then the goodness will follow, but not necessarily be chasing it, I guess. I think. Bill.
If you study the Torah, things will happen favorably. But if But my feeling is if you only study it and don't make use of what you study, put into practice, this doesn't make any sense. You've got to do more than just study it.
Mhm.
Is it a kind of like a quid pro quo where if you do this, then this will happen? And if you don't do this, then the other thing will happen.
I mean,
Go ahead, Justin.
well, I mean, I think that if you're studying the Torah, then you're going to be hopefully closer to God. You're going to be thinking about God more often. You're going to be thinking about the Torah more often. So that should potentially make your outlook godlier or, higher than if you were actively neglecting the Torah, I think, would be my response.
I think that studying the Torah is not a singular it's not just singularly that you do it. You usually do it with other people, at least one other. If you have a chavruta, a study time, so it embellishes your life because you don't usually study Torah alone. I don't think. And if you don't study it at all, maybe you're alone, and that leaves you less happy or less fulfilled.
Mhm. Yeah, I can agree with that. I just learned by participating in these sessions when I can. It's broadened my view on many things, being sharing, because each person has his own particular perspective.
So it's a sharing
Mhm.
that you get as the benefit of the study.
Mm.
Follow up on what you said, Carol. I was thinking that if you study the Torah, it will fulfill your life so that you go from a state of poverty to a state of wealth, what we've considered it from nothing to something really good.
How about emotional and spiritual?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I can remember years back, and one particular service, and my children were very young. It would have been a hard period for everybody, and I would just happen to be at the service, and there was something from one of the Psalms or something, and it gave me a sense of tranquility and peace, because it says, things eventually will come around. Everything will be fine eventually. Just be patient and always remember that. And it changed my attitude, many things, just my perspective. Just that simple as a coincidence. Have a little bit more patience and faith and perseverance, and things will come around. So right there, that was a piece of wealth for me in a sense. It helped me quite a bit. And there was just one or two phrases by coincidence.
Other thoughts on this text and how it's applicable today?
I like the idea that we have eliminated the notion of money from the words poverty and wealth. And if you don't know that there's a reward and a punishment on both sides of this, reward being that you will go from a state of poverty to a state of wealth, then when you study Torah, you're free. I mean, you really can indulge in the beauty of the Torah without thinking about any reward or what I'm going to get from it. There's something about that you're getting something from studying the Torah that I don't like. So we get rid of the money and just think of studying the Torah something wonderful to do and enriching as a human being and fulfilling and nourishing. And let it be that.
Let's look at the next text. Morris, would you read this text, please?
Yes. Some call this 4:12. Rabbi Meir said, engage but little in business and busy yourself with the Torah. Be of humble spirit before all people. If you have neglected the Torah, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it, i.e., distract you. But if you have labored at the study of Torah, there is much reward for God to give unto you. A biography, Rabbi Meir, active from 135 to 170 CE, was the most famous disciple of Rabbi Akiva. He was so respected for his wisdom that it was said, one who simply touches Rabbi Meir's walking stick becomes wise. That's Talmud Nidarim 29b. Meir was also considered so good at explaining things via stories that when he died, it was said that the last of the great parable tellers had passed away. Sota 49a. Rabbi Meir continued Rabbi Akiva's work of organizing the oral tradition thematically, Sanhedrin 86a:3, Jerusalem Talmud Shekalim 5:1:11. This made it easier for Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi to put the mission together in 200 CE. Rabbi Meir learned from everybody, including the apostate Elisha ben Abuya. It was said of him that he treated his lessons from Elisha like a pomegranate. He used the good parts and threw away the rest. Chagiga 15a. In the Talmud, Elisha is referred to as Asher, other. And this may be why Rabbi Meir is sometimes referred to as Acharim, others. Rabbi Meir liked to give public classes on Friday evening. One time, the class went longer than usual, and when one of the attendees returned home, her husband became furious at her delay. He drove her out of their house, saying that he shouldn't let her in until she spat in Rabbi Meir's eye 3 times. When Rabbi Meir heard this, he had it be known that he had an eye ailment which could only be cured by spitting in it. The woman did so, and her husband let her back to the house. Leviticus Rabbah 9:9. Rabbi Meir's wife, Beruria, the daughter of Rabbi Hanina ben Dan, and a scholar in her own right, Peshchim 62b:9. Once there were some troublemakers bothering him, and he prayed that they should die. Beruria urged him to pray that they should stop causing trouble, thus solving the problem about killing anybody. Brachot 10a. How are these sayings relevant to our lives today?
Thank you. That was a lot. Rabbi Meir is one of those important figures of which there's much to be said. So, we're back to our sayings. How is this relevant to our lives today?
Once again, there's the concept of reward, which I had trouble with. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. Why we should need to be somehow manipulated into really studying Torah to get a reward. Why not just study the Torah because it's important to what it to do in itself? So I don't quite understand this reward stuff.
There was I remember when Jacob was leaving his house, and he slept on a stone, and he woke up and he had a dream. I think it was a dream about the ladder. And then he realized that, well, God is in this place. And when that came, he said, well, if I remember correctly, he said, if you protect me and in my endeavors, then I will follow your words. So this is, kind of like an ongoing theme in the Torah. Did I say something wrong? I don't hear anybody commenting.
Nope.
No, I'm just thinking.
So I received a comment in the chat reminding me and us of one of the very earliest sayings in Pirkei Avot, chapter 1, number 2, maybe it's like 2 or 3, that the world stands on 3 things: on Torah, on Avodah, and on Gemilut Chasadim, deeds of loving kindness. And so this idea that Torah is something that sustains the world could be connected to this saying about the importance of busying yourself with the Torah. And in fact, the blessing that we said, La'asok b'divrei Torah, probably stems directly from this saying that we're looking at now, where it says, and busy yourselves with the Torah. In the Hebrew, that is va'asok b'Torah. So we have a blessing thanking God for the opportunity, for the mitzvah, the opportunity to busy ourselves with Torah.
The sentence, there is much reward for God to give unto you. But isn't there a reward that you get for yourself from just studying the Torah?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was trying to convey.
Yeah, that's what I thought, right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's something even beyond it then.
I think
Instead of using reward, can you use the word benefit?
Okay.
the story about Rabbi Meir and his wife, I think is a great little indication of how the stories in the Torah help elucidate, problems. On one hand, if somebody was bothering him and he was so angry that he wanted to kill them, his wife just said, well, why don't you just pray for them to change their behavior or stop their behavior. And then you don't have to worry about sinning and creating, and killing them.
Just think about this sage, this wise man who's hoping, and he's in whatever impulse he's wishing to harm somebody, when his wife had greater wisdom by providing him another option. Absolutely. So what does that tell you about the wisdom of ladies compared to men? And the basis of impulsive actions compared to more thoughtful actions?
Thank you, Charles.
No, because I know I'm impulsive, and my wife is one. Sometimes and she will do very simply the same thing. Just say, well, there's another way of approaching this.
This is Charles's point is the theme, I think, of more than one story of Isaac Bashevis Singer, where there's a woman of good common sense, and she's married to a deep student of the Torah who is capable of believing all sorts of things that in her sort of practical way is nonsense. There's many ways of looking at that, but I just reminds me of one of those stories.
Talking about Mr. Bashevis Singer, that's we can go on for years.
Well, I'm going to stop.
No, I could as well, so I don't want to distract us. He's very subtle the way he does things, yeah.
How does one go about doing this? Be of humble spirit before all people.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the person who listens, perhaps?
Assuming that the person that you're talking to knows at least one thing more than you do. Just always assuming that other people know more than you in something else that you don't know.
So I have a question. How do you link the reason that engage, but little in business, busy yourself at Torah, be humble in spirit, and then how does each one of these sentences relate to the other? I'm looking at this and I'm saying, what's the linkage? They're all interesting in themselves, but are they related to one another in one sense, or somebody see something there?
It's kind of as if you have free will to choose your path. You can go in a direction that will align you with others who are in a bad direction, say, and if you choose to do better and study and learn, perhaps you'll have a better life, and you won't need to be arrogant, and you'll be satisfied with yourself a lot more. And so it's a matter of choosing, study and hang with the good guys, or and enrich your life by surrounding yourself with those who are learned people and who are good people, do good things.
Okay.
Or don't. So it's sort of left in your lap what to do in terms of how it affects our lives today. We have lots of choices.
When you say be of humble spirit before all people, the first person that came to mind was my father, because he was my role model for being a humble spirit for all people. He was a brilliant, Talmud and Torah scholar, you would know if you met him, because he spoke to people from where they were, not in a condescending manner, but he just had a wisdom and a sensitivity about people. And he didn't talk, he spoke with them at whatever level they were at, very comfortably. Didn't put on any sensitive airs or he knew something better than they did, ever. So that to me is a humble spirit. And he was a chaplain at a hospital for 46 years. And his patients used to call me at home because he would offer my phone number and say, you know, I just spent an hour with your father. And I just feel so good, and I don't know why. And it's because he listened to me and he tried to understand. So he is my model for that line.
Hmm. I'm looking at the part where it says, if you have neglected the Torah, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it, i.e. distract you. And I'm wondering, it seems that it is saying, if you've already decided this is not a priority, then there will be lots of other people or things that will help that stay not a priority.
Yeah.
Wondering reactions and if this seems relevant to our lives today.
Just a point of clarification, if I might, David, are you reading this, as the translation suggests, to be about people, individual people who will bring you to neglect it, and not causes of neglect? It's really just a question.
Yeah, I'm reading it as, it could be either people or causes. Like if I don't want to prepare the next week's class, then I will find it much more likely that there'll be other more pressing things to like do with email or the internet or such. Whereas if I have decided that this is a priority, then I will have fewer things that are likely to rise to the level of being enough of a competing priority that I will abandon what I've decided is my first priority. Does that seem like it rings true in others' experiences?
Oh, yes.
Go back to the thing that Hinda and I were talking about. It just dawned on me that if what I said was that that you get a benefit, or like Charles said, instead of the reward for studying the Torah, but then because you have that, I can see why then there would be more benefit for God to give to you, because we would be more open to receiving it, having studied the Torah. For me, anyway, that's makes sense.
Nice. So how do the two sayings that we've looked at today connect to each other? To refresh your memory. Whoever fulfills the obligation to study the Torah from a state of poverty, their end will be to fulfill the obligation to study from a state of wealth, and vice versa. And then engage but little in business and busy yourself with the Torah. Be of humble spirit before all people. If you have neglected the Torah, you shall have many who bring you to neglect it or distract you. But if you have labored at the study of Torah, there's much reward for God to give unto you. How are these connected? Since they are juxtaposed reasonably for a reason.
Well, they're connected in the way that we've been discussing, that your life can be enriched and you get more pleasure from the knowledge you have because you'll have guidelines to make good choices, and you'll be wealthy in that sense, not financially wealthy, but wealth of knowledge, a wealth of good things in life, perhaps. And if you don't choose a path of study and you go with people who don't also choose the path of study, your life might be more simple and less rewarding. I'm not sure I should say this, but I mean, maybe the reward is really something you give yourself, not necessarily from God, but I'm going back to the fact that you have a choice. If you're exposed to something and you take advantage of it, if your mommy makes you go to Sunday school, you're gonna have a community that's supportive, and that's gonna make your life rich, and you'll learn and you'll share the learning with others. It just builds on itself, it seems to me. And if you don't have that, you don't have things to build on, and you kind of just go along on a horizontal line. So I see that message in both of those.
The way I can connect all of those, I guess, would be it's all about your connection with people and then your connection with God. So at the beginning, engage. Don't deal with business as much as deal with the Torah. Business is all with people. The Torah is all with God. So busy yourself with God, not with people. Be in humble spirit before all people. So it's saying busy yourself with God, not with people, but still have that human connection. Then in the next part, it says if you neglect God or the Torah, then people will be fine with that and they'll distract you. But as long as you're going with the Torah and going with God, God will be with you, basically. So it's all, if I was to connect it, it would all be about that relationship between people and God.
And Carol, like my older son's still friends with the kids he made in Hebrew school, and he's 60 years old. So it does give you community.
And reinforcing that, I got a comment in the chat. Torah study should be a priority which will bring wealth to your spirit. And that wealth could come from the social component of studying Torah and Jewish things writ large.